Chapter 24. Uncas manages to speak reassuringly to Hayward before they are separated by the rustling of the crowd. Since no one is watching him, he looks around the village for some sign of Alice. Having no success, he returns to the main lodge to have a word with them. The musician has not returned there. The chief, who addressed Duncan earlier, speaks again, saying that an evil spirit has inhabited the wife of a warrior. Can the cunning stranger get rid of it? Hayward has no choice but to stay. He will try. A figure looms in the doorway to the lodge, and Duncan realizes with horror that it is Magua. He reports good moose killing and says that the youth who just died should meet them on the trail. Silence greets his statements, and the boy's father speaks, saying he has no son by that name. He rises and leaves. Magua then receives news of Unca's capture. The Huron warrior looks upon the form of the young Mohican and realizes who he is, Lazar Fagil. Magua pronounces his death. A warrior is about to strike him, but Magua stops him and says that it must happen in sunlight. He wants to let Uncas try to sleep that night. As Magua fails to spot Duncan, he is led away from the lodge by a guide who is taking him to the sick woman. A squaw tends to a fire outside, whose light reveals the form of a large bear ambling about. Once or twice it puts its paws on Hayward, who is fast losing his nerve. He is dropped into the cavern that holds the patient. There is a circle of women caring for her, and David is at the center of them. The woman is paralyzed and discolored. David sings to her, which the thief sees an infirmity. A growl is heard. The bear was wandered into the cavern. David hurriedly leaves. Well, in the analysis we can see the fact that Magua completely misses the presence of Hayward is probably the most far-fetched aspect of the entire chapter. Most likely we are supposed to attribute this to his enthusiasm due to the capture of the Uncas. His joy is described as ferocious. His nostrils dilate like those of a tiger baby. Magua seems incapable of experiencing any emotion that are not tinged with violence. This evil character is again confirmed, even though he is the prisoner. Uncas smiles with contentment as he enjoys his victory among the Huron, who are all extremely agitated by his presence. Their tumult is a compliment to his superb skills as a warrior. Why else would they be so happy to have captured him? The pairing of the two adversaries' leaders among the people is appropriate. Clearly, the time of Uncas to prove himself has arrived. We do not yet know under what circumstances this will be occur, but it is steadily approaching. The moment of comedy comes when Duncan is led to the sick woman's cave and expected to cure her. He is frightened, but then, upon arriving, he finds David surrounded by the woman, who will try to heal the girl. It is funny that David has fit in so marvelously with the thief. He is of much more use here than he was with the travelers. The comedy continues when the bear follows Duncan into the cave and appears to hum one of David's melodies. This scares David so much that he makes run for the exit, saying that the woman expects her doctor.
Chapter 25. As we heart begins to improve some indication and we hit in the appearance of ill rights, the bear growls. Her Huron warrior decides to leave the cavern. Learn they were alone with the human and the bear. Hayward explains that bear are attached him, but instead the bear reveals itself to be Mohicans in the disguise. Howard reveals that the baron is costumed from a medical medicine man whom they knows and the hate and the people. Howard reveals that Alice is begin scheme in the village and tells Hayward the where she may be found. Hayward removes the pain from his face silence and goes to want to greet Alice in such gaze, the levels that Karen is soon in the unit to Alice. Hayward tell her she has a father's to permission to ask for her to marriage. They are interrupted by the entrance of Mayan, who immediately sees of Mont escapes room for them. Magua makes it her that Kay will die in the estate. They were apparent. Magua assumes that the bear is some disguised Indian and tells it go to place with the human and shield. But as the three pass, the bear puts him gaming and helping on his back. Hayward corrects Alice as Kane and Hawkins return to the cabin that were seen to the human lights. It's Howard suggesting the Hayward legend that the Indians waiting outside that he most like the humans we find something's birds. He says that she is now free of the thing Evan which is shut up in the rock. When the three of them make their way beyond and the village. Waking tells that Hayward to take Alice to Mayward the life to the village where the Indians will be friendly. Howard returns to the horror lake and sees that with cannon to save and ideas.
Good morning, my name is Christian Steven Casas Joya and I'm going to read chapter 26 of The Last of the Mohicans. Hawkeye carefully makes his way back to the village. Looking into a lodge, he sees that it is the dwelling of David. He is alarmed by the appearance of a bear, but Hawkeye quickly makes him understand who the bear truly is. David asks for news of the others. Hawkeye says they are free, but for Uncas. He tells David to lead him to the young Mohican. The musician speaks to the ward of Uncas, asks whether or not they wish to see him cry and beg for mercy. He says that the conjurer has come to take the captive's courage, but that all the warriors must stand far away lest their courage be taken as well. They enter the space and see Uncas bound in a corner. Immediately he recognizes the animal conjurer and counterfeit. He turns away in disgust, but the hissing of the snake is made. Uncas utters the name Hawkeye with surprise. David cuts the band from the costume. Hawkeye hands a knife to Uncas. He says, "The Huron are outside. They must be ready." Uncas wants to run to the neighbor tribe. Hawkeye knows he can never run fast enough. Tell Uncas to go while he replaces the costume. Uncas wants to stay and fight with Hawkeye. The scout decides that the Mohican should put on the skin while he exchanges clothing with David. The musician declares he will sit in the place of Uncas, who has fought bravely on his behalf. Hawkeye says if he practiced a religion, he would wish to do it as well as David. Leaving the tent, the scout sings songs and keeps time with his hand. The decipher are clear of the village when a long cry is raised. Hawkeye throws a hidden rifle to Uncas as he brandishes his own weapon. They run into the forest. Analysis. The plot is starting to move much quicker. We are heading towards something, but we are not sure what it is. There is much more dialogue in this chapter than there has been in the chapters more immediately preceding it. This change the tone of the story greatly. Is less reflective, more action-oriented. The plans being constantly arranged between characters create a feeling of suspense for the reader. This is the author's method of keeping interest high, and it is appropriate that he changed writing style slightly toward the end. It makes us eager for the conclusion. David's role in rescuing the scout and the Mohican is the highlight of this chapter. His performance when speaking to the ward of Uncas is superb. Not a trace of fear is evident. The musician shows unprecedented cunning as he talks about the Delawares as women, and refers to Uncas by his hidden name, Lecher Aguilem. He is more convincing and smooth than Duncan was, but nothing can prepare the reader for the moment he agrees to sit in the place of Uncas. that the other two men might escape. Freely he offered his life to the men who have fought bravely for him. David calmly states that he has never forgotten his faith in Lord, even in the greatest straits. Hawkeye, the man with a cross, gives him the highest compliment he can when he says that if he were religious, he would hope to practice as David does. Clearly, the singer gathers a tremendous amount of courage and strength for Christianity. As the most openly religious character in the book, we can take David as a general symbol of religion. Cooper uses this character to explore the usefulness of Christian doctrine. Interestingly enough, he seems divided, not knowing whether to praise Christianity or condemn it. Until now, David has been little more than a clown, resulting in a very undignified, silly portrayal of the religion he so loves. Then he becomes brave, even heroic. For the first time, David's Christianity has noble and practical use. It is certainly a worldly pursuit in the scout's eyes. It appears that Cooper is unwilling to completely insult the doctrine. Like anything, it has its good and bad points. That the author writes about how Uncas immediately knows that Hawkeye is a fake bear for lack of proper bear skills show that there is a division between the two. Much as he tries, Hawkeye can never be a complete Mohican, but the fact that Uncas will not leave Hawkeye, who cannot run as fast as he, demonstrates that they reciprocate the scout's great love for him. He refers to Hawkeye as the brother of his father, to calling someone with Chingahuk is the greatest show of respect possible for the young Mohican. When the two squeeze hands, it is a rare physical sign of affection. The comedy of the previous chapter continues as they escape from right under the noses of the guards. The Huron look more and more foolish. As always, the writing is filled with much appeal to the senses. The author writes of the darkness and the coldness that surround the two as they run toward the forest. Hawkeye speaks of the devils following their scent into the forest. Uncas calls the neighboring tribe tortoises. The diction creates an imagery that makes the reader feel like we are sparing the flight first hunt.